Welcome to the Great Loop Radio podcast, brought to you by America's Great Loop Cruisers Association. We're dedicated to sharing Great Loop information and inspiration for those actively cruising, planning for, or dreaming about a Great Loop adventure. I'm Kim Russo. I'm the director of AGLCA. Today we're going to talk about what's new with AGLCA. We've got a lot going on this summer, and Karen Nettles from the Home Port crew is going to join me and kind of walk us through all of it. Before we jump in, I do want to take a moment to recognize and thank our Admiral sponsors who support AGLCA at the highest level. They are Curtis Stokes and Associates, Great Loop Yacht Sales, Passage Maker Trawler Fest, Skipper Bob Publications, and Waterway Guide Media. As always, we encourage our listeners and viewers to support these businesses that support the Great Loop. And with that out of the way, Karen Nettles, thanks for joining me back on Great Loop Radio.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you helping us kind of walk through what's new with AGLCA because there's quite a lot going on.
Yeah, it seems like summer is kind of a quiet time for us, but this summer seems like it's a little different and we do have a lot going on. So do you want to just dive right in? Because we've got a lot to cover.
Yes.
Okay. First thing, in recent years, we've gotten a lot of member feedback about people wanting more social interaction. So we've started a virtual Docktails series for the summer. So can you tell us a little more about virtual Docktails and what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we did more virtual events a few years ago during the COVID shutdown. And we find that some of our members do miss that. You know, some of them are very early in their planning and aren't ready to attend an in-person event. And we've gotten lots of requests for some social time. So we are kind of test launching a virtual Docktails series this summer. We've already had a few of our sessions, but we do have some coming up next week. Is the next one. And let me start by saying virtual Docktails is essentially a session that we do on Zoom. We use Zoom's breakout room feature, and rather than just having a large group all trying to talk over one another, we've identified just kind of a few special interests or discussion topics. We've set up 5 breakout rooms so that folks can pick one of those topics and go ahead into that breakout room or switch back and forth between breakout rooms. And there's a discussion on that. We try to have either an AGLCA Home Port crew member or a Gold Looper or someone who is knowledgeable about the subject in the breakout room, just there to kind of facilitate and moderate. But essentially, it's meant to be an open discussion, very much like Docktails. And we probably really should actually back up a couple steps. And for those who aren't familiar with the concept of Docktails in general, it's just kind of a looper tradition that after everybody's tied up or anchored out for the day, loopers gather and just share a Docktail, any kind of beverage of choice. And it's just a take on the word cocktails, of course, but Docktails tend to have, you know, stories of the day, future plans on the loop. And it's just a great social time. So we're doing the best we can to replicate that in the virtual environment. And, you know, that's basically what it is.
Yes, and it's certainly a great way for people to connect. So can you tell us when the next one is and what the topics are going to be for the breakout rooms?
So the next virtual Docktails is July 24th. That's a Wednesday. We hold these from 4:30 to 6. Again, that's just kind of the traditional time that Docktails would be happening if you were out on a dock. And the discussion topics or the breakout rooms will include a few things. First of all, we've got working while looping. So those of you who are doing it can join and compare notes, or those of you who have done it, or those of you who are contemplating working while looping. Just a discussion. You can ask questions, share information and advice. The next one is loopers who love Canada. So just a discussion about all things Canada. We've got some of our Canadian gold loopers, Colin and Wendy Campbell, will be facilitating that discussion. But again, just comparing notes, whether you've done it, whether you're doing it now, or whether it's just something you're curious about. We will have somewhat of a reunion type breakout for our platinum loopers. That'll be hosted by Charlie McVeigh, who is one of our platinum loopers and a frequent speaker for us. And even though it's platinum loopers and it's kind of a reunion for them, if anyone would like to pick the brains of some of our most experienced loopers, they're welcome to join the group. We've got a future fleet of 2025, and I'll be hosting that one. So anyone who's planning to start the loop next year is welcome to join, hop in, ask questions, connect with other people who are getting ready to start. And then the last one is West Coast loopers. We know that our members coming from the West Coast to do the loop have some special considerations about how to find and buy the boat when they're far away, or also if they have a boat that is trailerable or shippable, how to handle things like that. So we've got some of our gold loopers from the West Coast. Seth and Jennifer Vore are going to join to offer some insight and advice. Again, no formal presentations with any of this. It is just an opportunity to discuss, to exchange ideas, and to be social.
Yeah, so it should be a good time and everybody can get a lot of information just in a different way and a different source. And speaking of information, going from something that's kind of informal and social, we also have a webinar series that's going on. And right now we have started the must have apps for the Great Loop. So can you tell us why you decided to do this series?
Yeah, basically, we get a lot of questions from members about some of the apps, some Looper favorite apps. So we decided to invite the apps that are sponsors of AGLCA to give us a demo of their app, tell us how they can help great loopers on their adventure. And it's always great to start to familiarize yourself with these apps before you start the loop. So it's a great opportunity to do that because we had such interest among our members and among our app sponsors. We broke it into 3 sessions. The first one was just earlier this week and it went extremely well. But we featured Ditch, which is a navigation software app, and we featured Waterway Guide. And for any of our members who missed those sessions, it was recorded and it is available on the greatloop.org website. Under the information menu, there is a webinar section, and the recording from the first in this series of must-have apps was placed there earlier this week. But really, these are for anyone who is boating and is interested in what apps can help them. This, as well as the virtual docktails, are for members only. So if you're not yet a member of AGLCA and you want to join these sessions, you'll have to join the association first. But that's kind of what's happening with the app webinar series.
Okay, and you already mentioned the first one's already occurred and the recordings are on the website. And we do have 2 more webinars in the series. So can you tell us what's going to be covered in those?
Yes, absolutely. On August 20th, we will have Predict Wind, which is a Looper favorite weather app that has some really neat new features. We've also got Nebo that night. And if you're not familiar with Nebo, it is a third-party app that AGLCA has adopted as the way for members to find one another on the water and communicate with one another on the water. Does have lots of other features. It generates basically a log of your journey, and you can generate maps that show where you've been. So Nebo is definitely a Looper favorite. And then the third one is Argo, which is another navigation app that has some really great new features, some auto routing features. So that'll be a really interesting session. That is August 20th. I should also note that there is another virtual Docktails session this summer, and that is August 21st. So the 20th and 21st, we've got back-to-back webinars. The 20th is another in the must-have app series. 21st is another virtual Docktails. And then the third in the must-have apps series, we will feature Aquamap, which is a very popular navigation software. We will also feature Yachtwave, which is one of our newer sponsors. And we'll also give you a look at the AGLCA app, which is fairly newly introduced. And hopefully, if we have time in this podcast, we'll tell you a little bit more about the AGLCA app as well. So all of the details for the virtual Docktails and the must-have app series are in the events page on our website, greatloop.org. Just go to events. Those are all free for members. So in total, 7 sessions that are free for members this summer.
Okay, and so moving on from virtual stuff, we now have some live events coming up, and one of those is a Looper Lifestyle event in Milwaukee this September. So can you tell us what a Looper Lifestyle event is and who the audience is for that particular event?
Sure. Looper Lifestyle Events. The long title is Great Loop Cruising, a guide to the Looper lifestyle. So it's meant to be an introduction to the Great Loop. So it is geared towards people who are new to the idea or early in their planning process. The first day is typically a half day. We start on a Friday afternoon, and we cover how to find and buy your Great Loop boat. So obviously, a lot of the people who attend the Looper Lifestyle sessions don't have their boat yet. They may be boaters and have a boat, but maybe it's not their Great Loop boat. But that's what we spend Friday afternoon kind of guiding them through. And then Saturday is a full day, jam-packed. It's a very busy agenda. but it is a combination of introductory seminars. We tell you where you'll go, what you'll see. And then we have, they're all different. Each time we do this, the topics are sometimes different, but sometimes we have basic navigation. Sometimes we have weather considerations. Sometimes we have things like marine electronics. So it just kind of depends on where we are and what speakers are with us. Interspersed with all of those kind of, I call them kind of the meat topics, we bring in some of our gold or platinum loopers. So anyone who has finished the loop, and they tell you the story of their great loop in shorter sessions, but it's a great way to hear what the loop is like from people who have done it, hear what kind of struggles they had, what kind of triumphs they had, and really just what their loop was all about, what kind of boat they had. They just share lots of details. So it's a great way to kind of learn what the loop is really about in a fairly short time frame. We hold them in various cities. We tend to travel around the eastern part of the US with those, occasionally into Canada as well. They're typically about 100 to 150 attendees, and they're not necessarily held along the Great Loop route. We just kind of go to a city that is a tourist destination and easy to get to, and have had some success with offering those in those kinds of places.
Okay. And then a perk with that, they do get membership with that, right? Or membership extension if people register for that.
Absolutely. For each person registered, you get 1 year of AGLCA membership. So if you register as a couple, couples can share a membership in AGLCA. So a couple would get 2 years onto their membership, either a new membership or a 2-year extension, and solos would get 1. So with each person registered, you get 1 year of AGLCA membership. So it's a great bonus. Comes pretty close to paying for the seminar.
Good. And sometimes we're able to add on some additional events or activities with this event, the Looper Lifestyle event. Do we have anything additional that's been added to this event for Milwaukee?
Yes, and this is a fairly new announcement, and I'm super excited about that. We are doing a Great Loop Cruising Guide to the Looper Lifestyle, or for short, our Looper Lifestyle Seminar. We're doing it in Milwaukee. It is September 6th and 7th. Milwaukee is on the Great Loop for those who are coming down the Wisconsin side, and this is the time of year back in September, the 6th and 7th. It's a good time that loopers will be coming through at that time of year. So we've decided to put together an in-person DocTales event in Milwaukee. It'll be a combination of those attending the Looper Lifestyle Seminar and any local members we have in Milwaukee, and then any boaters who are on their way through on the Great Loop that are in Milwaukee and can get to the site are welcome to join us for DocTales. So it's a members only event. It will be held at the War Memorial Beer Garden, which is right on the waterfront there in Milwaukee. It's about a mile, 1.2 miles from McKinley Marina, which is one of the large marinas in Milwaukee where a lot of loopers tie up. It's about a mile from the Hyatt where the seminars will be held. So it's a convenient meeting point. Attending the event is free. It'll kind of be a purchase on your own from the beer garden. So they've got beer and wine and some appetizers, but it's really just meant to be a social time for those who are new to the Great Loop and new to membership, attending the Looper Lifestyle, to hopefully interact with a lot of current loopers who are out there on the loop. So really excited to be able to bring those groups together.
Yeah, it should be a great time and a great introduction for those that are just coming into the loop to have exposure to that famous looper camaraderie for sure.
Exactly. It's going to be a really fun event.
Speaking of events, we're moving right along into the fall. We started in Looper Lifestyle in Milwaukee in September, and we know that the Fall Rendezvous, which is our most popular AGLC event, is coming up in October. So can you give us a quick overview of what's covered at that rendezvous and who's best suited to attend that event?
Yeah, you're right. The Fall Rendezvous is one of our most popular. It will sell out. It is not our biggest event, and that's just simply because the facility cannot hold as many people. So it will sell out. We wish we had a facility that was bigger. Rendezvous are longer events than the Looper Lifestyle events. They're typically 3 to 4 days. The Fall Rendezvous is 4 days. It is happening October 21st through 24th at Joe Wheeler State Park in Rogersville, Alabama. That's along the Tennessee River, just a short side trip from the main Great Loop route. Rendezvous originally started as primarily for loopers in progress. It used to just be one track, which is our route briefing. We give you detailed navigation information and suggested, things for your itinerary, places you might like to stop or see or do, marinas, anchorages, etc. Very detailed. And we take you from the Tennessee River around the southern half of the loop to Norfolk, Virginia, which is where the spring rendezvous is held. So different from the Looper lifestyle sessions, these are always held along the Great Loop route in a place where many loopers will be at that time of year. So in the fall, the river system is it. And that's why finding a bigger facility is a little bit challenging on the river system, because we need a combination of about 50 boat slips, about 100 hotel rooms, and meeting space that can accommodate, if we had meeting space that could accommodate 350, we could fill it. Unfortunately, at Joe Wheeler State Park, the maximum in the meeting space is 264. So that is the cap for the fall rendezvous. As the event has evolved, we added a second track. So in addition to the route briefing, we have a Looping 101 track, and that includes information for planners. So things like navigation, weather, marine electronics, DIY maintenance, things like how to share the journey, things like blogging and social media. It's a whole packed agenda on that side. We usually have a women's session in the Looping 101. And that has really grown the event. It's brought in a lot of planners. And probably one of the things that our planners really like the most is our looper crawls. As I said, we have about 50 boats in the marina. And in the afternoons, we have a couple of hours set aside where many of those boat owners will open their looper boat for others to tour. So if you don't have your boat yet, or you're not sure what kind of boat you might want, it's a great opportunity to get aboard lots of different looper boats in a short amount of time in one place. The owners are aboard. You can chat with them about what they like or don't like about their boat. And you get to see what the boats are really like when people are living aboard, as opposed to at a boat show where they're emptied out and they're just kind of prettied up for the show. So we feed you well. We include meals, dinners, and lunches. And it's just a really fun event. But as I said, if we could fit 100 more people into Joe Wheeler State Park, we would sell 100 more tickets. So we have had to put some special parameters around registration for that. And we always want to get the details of that out ahead of time.
Like you said, it sells out quickly because of the limited capacity, and registration does open next week. So do you want to kind of lay out what the procedure is so people can know what to expect and when they need to register based on accommodations and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. All of the details are on the greatloop.org website. Again, go to that events tab on the menu, and you'll see all of these events we've talked about, but you'll see the fall rendezvous there as well. And there's tons of information available about how this will all work. But in a nutshell, registration will open on July 22nd at noon Eastern Time for those needing a boat slip. Now, the reason we do this is because this is an important event for our in-progress loopers. They want that route briefing information. It's a great social time for them. And we need the boats to be there so that we can have the looper crawls. So for the second year, we have decided to open registration first for those wanting a slip. Have no fear if you don't want to slip. The event will not sell out during this first phase. As I said, we have about 50 boat slips. If each of those boats has 2 people aboard, that's 100 of the 264 available tickets. So there will be room for the rest of you, or a subsection of the rest of you. But so July 22nd, if you are coming by boat and need a slip, that is your registration date. It starts at noon Eastern and will remain open until all of the slips are accounted for. For everyone else, so if you are wanting a room at the Joe Wheeler State Park Lodge, or if you'll be staying somewhere else nearby, Joe Wheeler also has a campground you can stay at, or if you are to anchor out nearby, everyone not needing a boat slip can register beginning July 25th at noon Eastern. So that is this coming Thursday, July 25th, noon Eastern, is when anyone not needing a boat slip can begin registration for Joe Wheeler State Park. That'll stay open until all of the spaces in the meeting space sell out. Sometimes the lodge rooms sell out before everything else. So if the lodge rooms sell out, we will put a note up. It is a very rural area, so if we can't get you a spot with a lodge room, The next closest town with a hotel is probably 30 minutes ish away, but all of those details are on the site. So if you're interested in that event, all I can say is don't wait to register. Go ahead and do that as soon as possible after that registration opening date. We get questions about when registration opens all year long for the fall rendezvous. And we've been telling everyone late July. So the details are here. July 22nd, if you want a boat slip, noon Eastern. July 25th, if you want to come not by boat, or if you're going to anchor out the boat. July 25th, noon Eastern is that registration time. Anything else about the fall rendezvous, Karen? Anything I forgot to mention?
I don't think so. You covered the tracks and the looper calls and the registration. So I think that pretty much covers it, and everybody can find the additional details on the website. And I'm sure I know you're confirming speakers for the route session, so you'll release that soon. And then I guess you might want to mention how you do the track for Looping 101.
Yeah, that's a great point. So we are almost finished lining up the speakers for the route briefing, because it's a known thing that we're covering. The Looping 101 is a little bit different, and that is because we want feedback from those who are registered on what they would most like to see on the agenda. So about a week after registration, and for the fall, that usually means the event is almost full, but about a week after registration starts, we will poll those who have already registered with a whole list of potential topics for the Looping 101 track. We'll ask you to select like your 10 favorites, something along that line. We'll get those results, we'll compile them, and we'll use that feedback to build out the Looping 101 agenda. So that is not set until after registration is open. But as soon as we've got that figured out, we post that as well, so everyone can start making their plans about which of the tracks they want to go to. You don't have to pick one track or the other when you register for the event. You are free to switch between tracks as the day goes on. So that is the fall rendezvous. Let's take a quick break. Actually, I'm sorry. One more thing I should mention about the fall rendezvous. We will be having an event this winter that will cover a lot of the same information. That will be in Punta Gorda, Florida, again in late January. That event was added a few years ago because we know that the fall rendezvous sells out quickly, and we have a lot of disappointed members when they can't get in. So a lot of the content from the fall rendezvous will be repeated in Punta Gorda, Florida, in late January. Because dockage being what it is in Florida, particularly in Southwest Florida, we don't anticipate having a looper crawl at that event. So that'll be the biggest difference. But if you're going for the content, you can get most of it it'll be a looper palooza in January in Punta Gorda, Florida. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a quick break and play a message from our sponsors. When we come back, we'll just touch briefly on some of the other ways you can interact as an AGLCA member, some of the newer things we're trying. So we'll be back in a moment.
Life is better by the bay. Here in Panama City, Florida, we have deep blue waters surrounded by arts and culture. We love our historic neighborhoods, southern coastal cuisine, and the songs and stories of our locals. And we're sure you will too. If you're traveling along America's Great Loop, drop your anchor at St. Andrews Bay in Panama City and enjoy easy access to waterfront restaurants and shopping, a favorite among loopers. Land or water, you're going to love it here. Visit destinationpanamacity.com and learn more.
Lakeland Boating Magazine has catered to the interests of freshwater boaters on the Great Lakes since 1946. From in-depth boat tests and features on weekend getaways to product roundups and stories about colorful ports of call, we've got the Great Lakes region covered. Read Lakeland Boating Magazine to stay up to date on the latest Great Lakes news, discover fun events in the region, and read about the hottest boats on the market. Find your next Great Lake port along the Great Loop at lakelandboating.com. We're back on the Great Loop Radio podcast. Today we're talking about what's new with AGLCA and all the things going on this summer and into the fall. Karen Nettles from the Homeport crew is with me to help walk us through that. So what should we go to next, Karen?
Yeah, we've just covered all of the virtual and live events coming up. We've got some new things going on. We launched a new app a few months ago. Can you tell us some of the features that the new app has?
Yeah, the new app has many of the same things you'll find on the website, but I think the absolute kind of game changer there is the version of the Great Loop map that is in the app. It is a streamlined, much easier way to find harbor hosts, to find sponsors, to find best of the loop in, I think we have close to 20 different categories like best restaurant, best anchorage, best lighthouse, best museum. All of that is in the app, and you can sort the map just to see the things nearest you. So if you're arriving in an unfamiliar place and you need a harbor host, it's pretty easy to find the closest one by just hitting that near me button. Lots of other features, but that is certainly one of the favorites. All of the information to download it, the links to download it from both the Apple and the Android store are on the greatloop.org website. So definitely check it out. There are some features on the app for anyone, not just for members. So anyone can download it. Some of the features will require you to be a member and to be logged in order to use them. But check out the AGLCA app. It's a great new tool. And we're looking forward to continuing to develop the app and add some additional things.
Speaking of adding to it, do you want to give us a preview of what some of those things may be coming in the future?
We've got a pretty long wish list, and a lot of them are still kind of in the early development and planning stage, where we're still trying to figure out exactly what's possible and at what cost. So not a whole lot of details to share yet, but we do hope to use it to be able to reward our most active members. That's probably the next thing coming. We'd also like to add some other features to the map, like potentially details on where the different boats are located at specific times. So more to come on that as we continue the development process, but lots of possibilities there. And if you have any ideas on what you'd like to see, we are always looking for feedback. krusso@greatloop.org. That's KRUSSO at greatloop.org is my direct email address, or probably an easier one to remember is info@greatloop.org. If you have ideas for the app, send them our way and we'll see what we can do with them.
All right. And speaking of, like I said, we just launched that a few months ago, but then last year, the end of last year, we launched a members only Facebook group. Can you tell us why you decided to do that? There was already a large public group, and now we have the members only. So can you tell us a little bit about how that came about and why?
Yes, absolutely. Our public group is facebook.com/group/The Great Loop. So the group is called The Great Loop. It has approaching 150,000 members, which is fabulous. It's we love to see that level of interest in the Great Loop. But that said, as with anything social media, when you get a group that large, it comes with some of the normal social media challenges. So AGLCA does not have nearly 150,000 members, and not nearly 150,000 people have ever completed the loop or been interested in the Great Loop specifically. So a lot of the people in there are not loopers. A lot of them are not even boaters, which is fine. We love that they're coming to learn more. But we see some lack of kindness that loopers are known for. We see some advice being given that is not really sound advice. And because of that, and mostly because of some of the unfriendly attitudes we've seen on the public group, we decided to launch a members only group. I think we've talked about it briefly before on this podcast, but our members only group now has almost 2,000 of current AGLCA members in it. So it is a combination of people who have finished the loop and people who are planning the loop and are serious about the loop. So the tone is much better, much more friendly, much more sharing of information without the snarkiness that you sometimes see out there. And the information is more sound. So it's a great tool. It's a little bit of a administrative nightmare to try and keep it members only and sync that up with our member database, because there's no automated way to do that. So you'll see some details about that on our website as well, and how to join. But it is, doing exactly what we intended, which is giving members a place to share information and inspiration. And it's doing so with the camaraderie that loopers are known for. We still have our members only discussion forum on our website. The discussion forum, some people will always prefer that, and some people will always prefer Facebook. We really didn't want to have two places where people have to go to look for information. And you don't have to. There's information on both. The forum seems to work best to take a really deep dive into a topic, where Facebook, I think is more designed for the pictures, for the sharing of daily, where you've been, what you're doing. You can also, of course, ask questions there, but I find that the answers tend to be a little bit shorter. Whereas if you really want a detailed discussion about something, the forum is very well suited to that. So we've got both for members only. Everything we've discussed today is really for members only. We know that this is a public podcast. Not all of you are members. We do hope that you will consider joining us. The greatloop.org website goes over all of the benefits of membership, and there is a join now button right there at the top. So we hope you'll consider joining us. And those of you who are members, most of what we talked about is in the information menu, the sharing things, the app, and the Facebook group you can find in the interact menu, because that is all of the ways to interact with your favorite, with your fellow loopers. So hopefully this has given you some insight on what we've been up to this summer, where we kind of take a hiatus from in-person events over the summer because we find everybody would rather be out there boating than in a seminar room. But we've done some of these virtual things, and we've got a return to our in-person events coming up starting in September. So I hope to see many of you there. Anything, last thoughts, Karen? Anything we've missed?
No, I think we've covered a lot, and you said, they can go to the website and get more information. So it's all right there for them to decide what they want to do, if they want to join or attend one of these events or virtual events, or take part in the app or the Facebook group. It's all there.
Yeah, exactly. Karen, thanks for joining me again today to help get all these details out.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
And thanks to everyone who's watched or listened. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Great Loop Radio podcast. Until then, safe cruising.